In this video, we will start structuring the project on the backend side using Azure Functions. So let's get started. So the first thing that you need to do is to install the Azure Functions core tools. So if you want to see this link page here, you can go into our GitHub repository. You will see the link to this page here. So inside of this page, you will see different operation systems. For example, Windows, how to install for Windows users, Mac users, or even Linux. In my case, I'm using here the Windows because it's my operation system here, and I'm using the V4X. So in my case, I'm using here the Windows 64-bit. So after to install the Azure Functions core tools, we are going to come back and return it to our prompt command. Firstly, we have to create a folder called API. So in this case, I'm going to create right now this folder. Okay, now we are inside in the folder API. So the next step is to type the command func init. This command will is going to start into creating our Azure Functions project. So let's use this command right now. Here we will see a different work runtime that we can use with Azure Functions. So you can use even .NET platform, Node, Python, PowerShell, or even a custom programming language, for example, Golang, Rust, or other programming language that you want to use with Azure Functions. But in this case, we are going to choose Node option here. Inside in the Node option, we can see two different languages here, programming languages here. We can see JavaScript or TypeScript. So in this case, let's choose JavaScript. So now let's open our Visual Studio Code. So let's open here. So we can see right now this folder here, the API. And inside in the API, we can see this folder here, .vs code. So in this case, this folder should be outside out of this API folder. So let me delete this folder firstly, and now we are going to use the command inside in the Windows users. I'm used to use Ctrl+Shift+P. Inside in this command, let's type Azure Functions, and inside in the Azure Functions, let's choose this option here, Initialize Project for use with Visual Studio Code. Let's choose this project here, Prisma Azure SQL Test. Let's choose the language here. So in this case, we are using JavaScript. So in this case, let's choose JavaScript, and that's it. And click here as yes. So inside in this folder here in the .vs code, we can see a bunch of files here. For example, extensions.json, launch.json, settings.json, tasks.json. These files is very important in the moment that we decided to deploy this project to the cloud. So that's why I decided to include outside in our project. So let's focus here in the API folder. So here we are starting to do a little changes here. So firstly, let's change the local.settings.json file. So here we need to include the default port for Azure Functions. So in this case, it's 7071. So let's do this right now. And that's it. It's very important to use the cores. Also, we are doing the relationship between the front and side. So that's why we have to use the cores here. The next thing that we need to do here is creating another file called proxies.json. So let's create this file right now. So let's include some important informations here. The other thing that we need to do is create a .env template file, because this file here will be very important in the moment that we will need to create the real .env file. So let's go back to the GitHub repository here, go to the API folder, and then to the file .env_template file. Just copy this information in this moment and paste in our Visual Studio Code. And that's it. In this moment, just that's it. Another file very important that we need to create here inside in the API folder is .funkignore. So let's create this file right now. Again, return to the repository, API, funkignore. Just copy these informations, paste in your Visual Studio Code. So that's it. Here, just to understand what is happening here, this is the files in the moment that we need to deploy our application in the cloud. All these files will need to be ignored. Let's come back our attention to the .vs code folder, because there's a little things that we need to make some changes here. For example, in the extensions.json, we don't need to do anything here. So it's fine. We don't need to do anything here. We need to make some little changes here. So in this case, let's remove this function name here. And here, after to Azure Functions.predeploy task, that we need to include some a little block codes here. Here enable to true. The base URI will be API/employees/ and the proxy URI will be this URL here. And finally, in the tasks.json file, we need to make a little changes here also. So in this case, let's change here to, let's remove this node option here, just func-watch. Let's remove all the functions here as well. Now we are ready to develop the project in the backend side. So see you in the next video.